All right, good morning, cyber traders. Welcome on back to a brand new day, brand new week inside this live trading room of ours. Great to see Ray, Brad, Peter, Patrick, Ravina, Mark, Mario, Luis, and great to see all of our members that like there. Hopefully, good to go across social media, Facebook Live or YouTube. You could tell by the voice of myself here. This is not Fausto Pugliese. Once again, this is Josh Levitan tagging in for Fausto. Fausto's actually 33,000 feet up in the air right now on the way to Jacksonville, Florida for the great Tom Busby's on-site class with DTI. So, that'll be fun coming up over the next day or so. I think they even got that kicked off as of last night. But great to see all of us alike here, folks. We got a lot to talk about here heading into the Open, don't we? Ended up having a strong end of last week. A couple of really strong trades taking us into the close. This morning, well, there are some things to talk about this morning in pre-market, but unfortunately, they didn't really break the way that we would want them to. So, actually, to begin, just allow me to welcome all of our new trial members and new members that like joining us here inside Cyber Group. We had made a post for any of our new trial members just joining us here earlier. Hey, right now during your trial, it's recommended to observe our students, instructors, and main chat board alike, and to not trade our callouts. Well, why is that? Because we don't want you to risk your capital when you're untrained. It's like kind of like trying to hop on a motorcycle and run, drive like 80 miles per hour down the expressway without proper training, right? What's going to happen? You're going to fall off the bike, get hurt. So here, hey, if you have a lot of experience with trading, that's one thing. But, this is a very particular style of trading that requires just for you to be a little bit quicker to the draw in order to get in as well as to get out. So to go over a couple of these trades from this morning, at least so far in pre-market, we ended up posting our pre-market watch list inside our live trading room pretty early, just shortly prior to 7:45 Eastern time. We had the DBGI trade on there. We had NKLA, familiar name. We had COSM, one from last week, and a few more on top, right? So alongside those, there are a couple of others that ended up making a pop after 8 a.m., the infamous 8 a.m. move. But to begin, DBGI in pre-market, at least prior to the 8 a.m. move, it was looking pretty strong. It was running up. I'll be frank here, I didn't check to see what the news was on this trade. So allow me to get that now for all of us here on social media, Facebook Live, YouTube. But, easy to say here, but clearly this hasn't made the pop or move that we wanted it to make so far. So, really, actually, so far in DBGI, the only news I have on this stock is from last week back on the 19th, DBGI compliant with NASDAQ listing requirements. That's it. So it had a little activity early this morning, maybe some extra short covering, perhaps, whatever it may have been. Clearly it failed to really make that pop off of 3, failed to hold support off of $3 as a whole number, and for it to run off of there. So, just like I always say, and just like Fausto says as well when he's here, if it's not making that big move that you want shortly after getting in, it's best to get out. So I actually started my pre-market morning off, my pre-market, with a 2-cent loss on this trade. It's like technically like a tiny little break even, but for pre-market, my first trade, -2. It's to say at least that I haven't really missed much on this trade after. There were a couple of others that ended up making a pop, so we'll get to those in a moment. At least for right now, DBGI, it's making a lower high here, so I'm not even as inclined to put this on our main watch list so far. I'll put this on our side list. I'll come back to this maybe by the end and see if it looks a lot stronger, at least from that point, right? Now, I ended up picking up some money on the GNS trade. Thankfully, this was a decent little move here, and we'll bring up level 4 book map just coming up. So, GNS was one from last week. It was one from Thursday into Friday. So allow me to just go back here, if I may. From Thursday, this cheapy stock, normally we don't focus on these below dollar type of stocks because they normally don't make this concise, of a move up. So, this is kind of the exception here, but ended up making a beautiful push over $1, completely took off from there. Made a dollar move off of one. So ended up running up higher later on into the close. This was back on Thursday last week, folks, back on the 19th. So just on Friday, it ended up moving up a little bit higher in pre-market, but then dumped off. So you got to figure at some point, for as much of a run-up as we had back on Thursday, it was going to make a pullback. And if not as significant on Friday, then it could have done the same this morning. So it made just a really sharp pull on Friday, and now this morning it's like kind of wiggling around a little bit. It's technically up 5-6% so far this morning, but now you could see making lower highs. The trade that I ended up nabbing on this, it's not too much to write home about, that's for sure, but at least it was profit. So, it gave me a small little cushion to begin, and we'll go further from there. But, we had called out a couple of big iceberg orders here, showing it on level 4 right now for all of us live. You can tell right here just from 356, 357 on the bid. A couple of big ones out there, 24K, 44K here at 357. So the hope is to see this squeeze up at least, if not make a full-fledged run up higher. So I know Jeff, one of our students, one of our platinum students here, he had wrote with me. He was in on the trade right off that 357. Great entry time at the great entry price at the time. From there, though, it ran up pretty nicely. It just failed to break higher off the VWAP. It had a tough time with the VWAP price, folks. So, I made that comment specifically as a post inside our trading room. Hey, just like the other one on DBGI, that other trade, if it's not going to make that big move that you want, then it's best to at least take some profits. So this was good for me for about 10 cents, like 9 cents, I think it was. I scaled out in 2 halves. So, just got out pretty quickly and then ended up diving off. So I was pretty happy with my decision making there. But, again, just when you want bigger and more, the big pop in pre-market after all these runs that we've had the last week and a half, we can't get spoiled, right? And that's a lot to do with discipline and psychology as a trader. A little segue, if I may. We have the phase 2 stock course beginning today, actually, folks, this morning for Phil and Ray and Grant and Ravina and all of our gold, platinum, diamond C2 students. We're going to be talking all about that today, this morning at 10:30 Eastern time. So we got plenty of time ahead before that, but we'll talk about hey, our emotions going into the market open, our emotions, throughout the day. What happens when we're down and have to crawl back? What happens when we're up? Should we keep going? Those are things that those are things that we'll focus on in the phase 2 class coming up. But with that in mind, though, GNS kind of making the same type of lower high move as the DBGI. So I'm not fully committed to this one either. If anything, if we don't really have a big list by the end of it all, I'll probably throw them on there. But let's see what we have, though, folks, just from top to bottom. I know one of our students, Mark, private chatted me early this morning on this stock. And is this the next GNS? INBS here. I mean, ran from 30 cents up to 65, pulled back, and kind of mellowed out there. So when it's like 8:30 Eastern, you don't know or have that good of an idea it's going to really run up another 50 cents, double in price. You hope for it. And if you see chart patterns like higher lows and the break of resistance, then there's a better chance. But it's certainly not expected when it's kind of dead and meddling around there. So, congrats to anyone that held on there. But yeah, right now, definitely this IMBS for right now, I'll put on our main list, kind of breaking the exception of no cheapies below $1, right? Obviously making that strong of a move. We'll definitely focus on this now heading into the open. ALLR, not so much. You could tell. I mean, it moved up pretty nicely at first, but now it's kind of mellowing out. We'll call it out if it makes that type of, break of the highs or, higher highs coming up. Geez, got all these cheapies now. I mean, I think IMBS kind of set the flags off for all these other cheapies that are suddenly popping. VERB, this has a nice daily chart, if anything, but I don't know. I'm not fully committed to these stocks below $1, so you're just gonna have to kind of pluck through them with a fine-tooth comb. And you could say the same on stocks that were already on the pre-market watch list of ours early, like the PLRX. Once more, folks, PLRX was on the pre-market watch list here going into 8 o'clock. I think there was some news out on it in relation to one of their drugs. But nonetheless, though, it's just really thin looking at the order book. It's up big. There's a chance for this to make a nice run back up. I hope the order book fills in, that's for sure. I mean, if anything, I like the DBGI and the GNS more than this. So, all right, what else we got here, folks? Just going down the gainers side right now. Hey, that GNS was back from Thursday and Friday of last week. I'm sure we'll run into a couple of the others that we had from last week as well. Oh, that's right. I want to talk about the CVKD trade in a moment. So that's what I was referring to there for all of our new members joining us here. So TCRX could be the same. I mean, hey, it popped up, after 8 o'clock. We thought there was a chance for this to build support, but ended up failing to run off the 3 level and then ended up pulling back. So let me just check to see if there's like a headline out on this trade. That's at least one thing that can give me a little interest in putting this on our main list, even with this trending directly down off the highs. So TCRX trading higher after the company announced FDA has cleared its investigational new drug applications. Ooh, okay. That's pretty interesting. So it's not full-fledged FDA approval, mind you, but FDA cleared their applications. So I'm sure there's probably a long process to go even before FDA approval there. So, for right now, I guess I'll put this on our main list. I don't like the fact it's trending down off the highs. Just, so make that noted. But you can say the same, obviously, on CVKT. So this ended up having a huge squeeze out of nowhere after 8:30. I mean, just completely out of nowhere. New IPO, and that was the first thing that I personally took wind of. That's the first thing I caught here on the daily chart. There's like no historical data to work off of here. So, you could just see back from Fridays when it had opened up. It hit a high at the time of 675 and pulled back. Okay, well, once it blasted above 675 here, there's no historical resistance to work with. And in pre-market, not only that, but there's no volatility halts in pre-market. There could be news halts in pre-market, not volatility halts. So who knows? I mean, hey, just after all the stocks that we saw from the last week and a half, why can't this thing freaking fly all the way up, 10, 15? Hey, it's possible. It's not out of the realm of possibility. So from that point, though, it pulled back, and at that point, you got to look for a big level. So I called out $8 as a big level. A lot of volume building up off there from the consolidation, and you could just see generally after it kind of dragged back under it here. That's when I was looking for the break back above it and the new pop and run. It just held perfect under 8 and then pulled back. So at that point, we were calling out support, potential support off of that 680, 675. And I'll tell you, it's as soon as it broke under that price, there was just no looking back. I was like primed up, ready to jump in on this trade. Just pulled right back again, and like no entry possible based off what we teach. You would want to see it break under the level, as it did, but have it break right back over the level, have it snap back over the level, and have it make that big pop after. So, it just didn't even afford us that chance there. You could just see it snapped right under it and pretty much game over. So in terms of catching the falling knife, Fausto goes over that in his like free stuff and his free webinars he does on YouTube. I mean it. Like, that's the most simple advice anyone could ever give in terms of trading. You can't catch a falling knife. There's a difference between looking for support and catching a falling knife, right? There are times where I'll try and look for support, and I do get stopped out quick on a loss, but I'm not catching a falling knife, at least in my mindset, based off the strategy that we preach to you. So, it just broke right under there, and that was it. Game over. So, unfortunately, this dumped all the way back down to 5. Is it possible to bounce from here now? Don't hold your breath. This is on such a smooth downtrend line right now off the highs. So that's now something I'm obviously focused on here. Looks like it kind of broke the trend line, but it still hasn't popped the higher high yet. So, it's volatile enough for this to afford us a potential squeeze. Maybe I throw this on the back end of our list just for like fun, just to kind of see as a last resort. But yeah, otherwise we'll see what else is out there. Now, Mario, one of my platinum students here at CTU. Done a bunch of coaching with him in the past. He's a killer as is, but he got 40 cents on the INBS trade. He was in from 58 cents. Talk about a home run, Mario. Congratulations on that one. Wow. Mario, let me ask you, how long have you been with CTU for, if you don't mind me asking? If he's still tuning in, he may have just logged out for the day. I would. if I make 40 cents on a 58-cent trade, I'm hightailing it out of here. How long have you been a student, Mario, if you don't mind me asking? You just wrote back. We always have new students joining us, new trial members joining us each and every week. So, not all of us started off at the same exact starting point. And, that's even prior to joining CTU, right? I think Mario's been with us for a couple of years, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, right? All right, let's see. Yep, he says probably over 5 years. Don't really remember. Geez, Mario, time's flying, man. I had to check back on that CRM here of ours. There are some folks that will tell me, yeah, I've been with CTU for like 6 years. I'm like, geez, really? I thought it was like 3. So another one. Gee, Mario, 5 years. Well, one of our longtime students, certainly platinum student of CTU, and he's been killing it. So that's like a home run to start the week off. All right, we'll keep the good times rolling here, folks. Let's see what else we got. DBGI, got Vuzi here, a couple other like kind of familiar names from years past that we've traded. Wayfair's been on a huge tear the last 2 weeks or so. I don't know if there's any news out on it for it to be up another 11% or so, but just pretty expensive stock and pretty illiquid order books. So I'll pass on here. IOVA, kind of a funky chart. If the order book fills in after the open, I wouldn't mind calling it out, but let's see what else we got. Now, CEI. Ooh, CEI, familiar name, former runner. And what I'm referring to here is, I mean, this stock has been split over and over probably since this point. So back in the beginning of last year, 2022, ended up seeing this make a big pop. Now, again, these numbers are adjusted according to the split that it ended up making. So, it wasn't like $30 ran up to 100, but you can imagine for a stock to 3 or 4x in that time, it was like $1 back then, if not even cheaper. So, it was actually like below $1, if I'm not mistaken. Did it break lower again? Did it break back below that dollar line again now? Man, when a stock does a reverse split, normally it's not a good thing to begin with, but typically it just leads to continuation after. It hasn't broken back below $1, so to say again, but the CEI is up like 6.5% plus. It's making a bit of a Fausto flag, even higher lows, approaching that resistance again off 196 or so. Looks like a really nice level 1 stock. And by level 1, that doesn't mean that only new beginner students should be trading this and like the more advanced students should be following something faster. Hell no. Are you kidding me? And I don't mean to sound that blunt with saying it that way, but folks, what I care about and what Fausto certainly cares about, it's nice to show like the big runners and poppers and high flyers, but we care about making our days pay by the easiest way possible. So if it's CEI that makes the move for us here, and it has a tight book or a tight spread and a very liquid book, and it's relatively slower moving, but it's making a really strong move, I'd rather focus on that. So, for any new members here, just realize like, yeah, we'll show like a couple of more volatile, like faster moving stocks, but that doesn't mean like that's the only one that we're following, right? So we care about the stocks that give us the absolute easiest and best chance at making money based off the strategy that we're employing. All right, so CEI definitely a good pull here. Nice, good catch. We'll see if this keeps pushing up here heading into the open or after. Tour up over 5%. Familiar name. The stock actually made a good run for us at the end of last year at some point. There we go. Nikola was on our pre-market watch list. This was more of a dud after 8 a.m., unfortunately, but ended up pulling back down and just failed to really make that higher low and break higher after. So, maybe after 9:30 it can make a better move, but for right now, it just looks really flat. Looks really inactive right now. So perhaps after the open, we'll call this back out again, but let's see what else is out there. All right. So with that in mind, folks, I mean, hey, if there's anything else that looks good on the gainer side, just type it in here. Oh, how about this? No. How about this? Actually, before we hop over to the loser side, because I'll tell you what, we were going over news in the phase 1 stock course last week, right? And, we were talking about, news and in particular, a type of news that will come out, unfortunately, every now and then. It came out with Microsoft and it came out with, I think, Amazon, if I'm not mistaken. But all these big layoffs, right? Or Google, it was my mistake. It was Google. All these major layoffs, right? Well, oftentimes, and it's not guaranteed, but oftentimes when there's layoffs, like you'll see like an immediate reaction of a small little gap up, small little push up over time, or shortly after the news comes out. So Spotify, we're not day trading this, but it's just to say like any news on Spotify this morning. Well, yeah, I mean, they're trading higher after the company announced a 6% reduction in headcount. So, that's the exact headline that I'm reciting to you right there. So pretty interesting to see that coming off the phase 1 course, right? Just where we were talking about the news there. All right, so my apologies. I'm a little stock geek here, so I find that very compelling, pretty interesting news out there. So, getting a little excited with that. Let's hop over to the loser side, though. Let's see what else is out there, though. The CPRX trade, the stock has been grinding and grinding on up and actually breaking all-time highs as it's been doing it. I thought it was going to make for a better day trade at some point over time here, but it really hasn't. In hindsight, just easy to say, it's been a really good swing trade, steady on the way up. I'm not going to check Benzinga here for the news folks. We're cutting it close to the market open. But otherwise, though, I mean, it's down big, right? It's still down big, 12+%. It is shortable. So whatever news is out on it, if we could find a lower high after or break a big support, then we'll look to follow it as a short then after the open. All right. Let's see what else we got here to wrap up, though. I mean, not much on the loser side to begin with here, really. I mean, we try and stay above 5%. AGQ. Silver stock, it looks like, or it looks like an ETF, Pro Shares. That means it's an ETF, actually. Silver ETF? The more you know. Pretty interesting. All right. Well, SLV obviously down over 3% here. I'm sure you'll get PAAS, Pan American, somewhere on there. All right, folks. So let me know if there's anything else that I missed. Up, down, left, right, more than 5%. I'll tell you, there's not much like really making a strong, convincing move up right now. And that's all right. Perhaps calm before the storm. I know Fed week is next week ahead. So, there could still be some good activity ahead here coming up. GNS, all of these are still making lower highs and not really making that good of a pushback up right now heading into the open. So, out of any that we have on the proverbial side list, I'd say the GNS trade would be the one that would be most active, at least from there. But so far, we have 5 stocks in total. We got a couple of cheapies there between the CEI and the IMBS. We have the TCRX trade. We have the CVKD trade, my dyslexia getting in the way there, and CPRX. All right, folks. So for all of us on YouTube and Facebook Live, I'm very thankful I got my own audio finally fixed here. I think in the afternoons, just the last couple of trading days, Thursday, Friday last week, I've had some issues there, so I got it fixed. But hey, if you're interested in joining our live trading room, just go right down to the link on the green banner below the stream that just popped up, and just sign up for a week-long trial with us there. Now, for all of our trial members just joining us right now, I'll repeat the message that was said earlier. Please, unless if you're already a very consistently profitable day trader of stocks joining us right now, I would not look to, risk your money and trade our call outs right now. I would look to get educated first, go through our curriculum phases 1, 2, and 3 at first. Or if anything, tomorrow we'll be conducting our live workshop, Traders Talk. So this goes, of course, for all of us on social media as well. If you're interested in joining us for our workshop tomorrow, just go right down to the link on the green banner below. But send over any trading related questions over to my email address, josh@ctutrading.com. That's my email address there, and I'll post that inside the live trading room right now as well for all of our trial members here joining us. For members like John and Leda, Mario, Michael, you folks know best, of course. But hey, folks, I look forward to being back on the mic coming up in just about 5 minutes. We'll kick things off for the opening bell. Talk to you soon.